Welcome to The Know. I'm Brian.
I'm Ben.
Are ROM sites going extinct? Because that kind of seems like it's the case lately, as some major ones have been shut down because of lawsuits, while others have just kind of preemptively decided to take their ROMs down.
It's just not worth it with the threat of having to pay millions of dollars in fines, and that'll kind of do that to you.
Yeah, ROMs have always kind of existed on the legal fringes, but there has been a big crackdown lately on them that's spearheaded by Nintendo. They have gone after some of the more well-known sites, and they basically said, get out of the ROM business or else.
Yeah, Nintendo sued Love ROMs and Love Retro in federal court in Arizona over what it calls copyright and trademark infringement.
And they sued them for a lot of money, like at least $100 million.
That's led to both Love ROMs and Love Retro shutting down.
Yep.
But we've also recently seen another big site, EMU Paradise, preemptively deciding to get rid of its ROMs because it decided that it didn't want to deal with the possible exposure to legal action.
Yeah, they're keeping their site up as well as their collection of emulators, but it's looking like it's going to be pretty much a shadow of its former self.
And while ROMs will always be treated on some level, we might be looking at the end of big sites that store vast libraries of them.
Critics of ROMs like Nintendo say that ROM sites are blatantly violating copyrights and illegally distributing games that they have no rights to.
But others say that ROM sites are providing a service because they're keeping around otherwise forgotten games.
Yeah, the founder of EMU Paradise definitely referenced game preservation when they announced that they were taking down their ROMs this week.
The site's founder, Moss J, wrote, I started EMU Paradise 18 years ago because I never got to play many of those amazing retro games while growing up in India, and I wanted other people to be able to experience them.
But you know who's not buying that argument? Nintendo.
Nintendo doesn't want it. We asked Nintendo about their lawsuits against Love ROMs and Love Retro a few weeks ago, and they responded with a statement. This is a civil case involving multiple websites that host and promote legacy game ROMs for free and direct download. The sites include hundreds of pirated copies of Nintendo games from multiple Nintendo platforms.
They also added the most popular downloads on the website are Nintendo's first-party titles that have been reportedly downloaded more than 60 million times. The case also involves the unauthorized use and promotion of Nintendo's registered trademarks and copyrights.
And while there's no doubt that ROMs violate copyrights, it's also true that these old games need to be preserved, especially the old school stuff on floppy disks. Those aren't going to be around forever or even at all. I'm pretty sure most of them are gone.
They disintegrate. Like the floppies disintegrate. Like you gotta back this shit up.
But there will always be that garbage site full of the ET game. That's never going
to that landfill, yeah. I mean, there are nonprofit groups like the Game Preservation Society and the Video Game History Foundation that are more interested in the preservation side of things than pirating things.
Lots of places are storing old video games these days. They've even been collected in the Smithsonian, the Museum of Modern Art, and the Library of Congress.
I should tell my parents that. Like, see, it wasn't crap.
Video games are worth something, Mom and Dad. Take that.
The Video Game History Foundation writes on its website that video game history is disappearing. The majority of games that have been created throughout history are no longer easily accessible to study and play. And even when we can play games, that playable code is only a part of the story.
So there's definitely a preservation argument to be made, but it's probably better made from a nonprofit group with a legit background in archiving things rather than sites that might just be interested in making money off of ad clicks, that kind of thing.
We've also seen other ROM sites like The Old Computer and Cool ROM get rid of their Nintendo offerings, although they definitely still offer ROMs for other consoles.
On The Old Computer, which bills itself as the world's largest ROM and emulation site, its Nintendo section has a big red sign that just says permanently closed.
Yeah, and under that they have a really unwieldy long disclaimer. I'm going to read it right now. It's crazy. It says, we do not make available, distribute, sell, or let for hire, offer, or expose for sale or hire, advertise for sale or hire, have in my possession for commercial purposes, or otherwise deal in or with the unauthorized copies of video games developed for Nintendo's video game platforms, and do not do so because we acknowledge that they infringe the intellectual property rights of Nintendo together with other publishers and developers.
Take a deep breath.
Woo!
That's code basically for please don't sue us, Nintendo.
Yeah.
They could have just put a sign that was like, no, Nintendo, stay away. We don't
have
anything.
And maybe this means that ROMs aren't going to disappear forever. Maybe just the Nintendo ones because they're so litigious. But that would also be a shame because Nintendo is a huge part of gaming history. It basically single-handedly rescued the industry after it completely crashed in the early 80s.
Yeah, that was a massive recession in the gaming industry that occurred from 1983 to 1985, and it basically wiped out the second generation of consoles, the Ataris and the ColecoVisions of the world. Big players like Magnavox completely got out of the business, and some big game publishers just folded.
Yeah, there were way too many consoles, way too many games, and it just cratered. It was only thanks to the Nintendo Entertainment private system that the market recovered when it came along in the mid 80s. It got super popular and Nintendo just dominated after that.
So needless to say, Nintendo's a big part of gaming history. Like, thanks Nintendo for making sure gaming stays around.
Totally.
And while it has a history of re-releasing its back catalog, the reality is that most of it's kind of just forgotten and in the past.
Yeah, and for better or worse, ROM sites, even the sleazy ones, they do keep these games around.
Yeah.
And otherwise, nobody's playing them. I mean, even Nintendo, we're going to release 10 NES games, for the online service. But what about all the others? There's thousands of these games.
There are a ton of old school games that have been a history of video gaming
but you
in general.
can't play them anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
As for their legality, well, that's never really been tested in court, which means this will probably keep continuing.
It's kind of a bummer. I don't know. EMU
I'm a little
Paradise, that was a legendary site. I don't know. It's sad to see them go. What do you guys think the future is for ROM sites? Will we continue to see them drop like this? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your gaming news, like this video, subscribe to The Know.
Decided to take their ROMs down.
The threat of having to pay millions of dollars in fines will kind of do that to you.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Wait, let me try that again. That wasn't good.
Do we just redo the threat?
You were great.
Just
Let's start. Yeah.
Okay.
You were great. I was terrible.
I always appreciate Brian's.
No, I did a weird
enthusiasm.
response.